Okay, you're looking at example number 2 on identify the amplitude and the period of an equation. So normally this is f of x or y equals, doesn't matter, cosine of x, right? So normally when I put in my numbers, I plug in 0, I get 1. Cosine of 0 is 1. And then 90 or pi halves, I get 0. And then at pi or 180, I get negative 1. So down here, negative 1. So 180 is the same as pi. And then back at 270 or pi, 3 pi halves, I get back to 0. And then at 360 or 2 pi, if I'm in radians, I get back to 1. So it looks like this, right? But now this is taking that angle, x, and multiplying by 5, right? So normally if I want 90, well, if I want 90, I would divide that by 5, right? So that's 1, 4, 8, 18. So if I plugged in 18 into this equation right here, then I would get 90, right? Then I would get 90. So I'm actually going to reach this a lot sooner. I'm going to get to 0 a lot sooner at 18 because I'm multiplying that x by 5. So normally the period length, how long it takes to repeat itself, is 2 pi for cosine equals the period. But now I'm going to get there a lot sooner because now I just plug in 18 and I get to this 0. If I want to get to 180, I can take 180 divided by 5. What's that? 336, right? I'm going to get there at 36. So at 36, I'm already down to negative 1, right? So see how I'm just going to basically get there a lot sooner, okay? So my period length is shorter. Well, when we talk about cosine and sine, it's usually in this form like we saw in the first video, cosine of bx. And normally there's an x there, but now we're multiplying by a number, say b. Okay, and then we have our amplitude out here, which we're going to talk about. So normally, when this is just x, our period is 2 pi, right? But now we have a bx there. So now if we just divide this by b, now we get x by itself just like it was originally, right? Okay, so our period is always 2 pi divided by b. Because you notice how I divided by 5, I divide by 5, and that's what's being multiplied by x, and that represents my b. So my period length for sine and cosine is always 2 pi divided by b. Whatever is being multiplied by our x, that is our b. So here, if we do this problem, we can see that normally it's 2 pi, but here we have 5x. So if I divide by 5, my period is 2 pi fifths. So it's going to take 2 pi fifths in order to repeat itself, or we can do degrees. So if I do degrees, this instead of 2 pi, this is going to be 360. So then it's 360 divided by b. Okay, so ours for 5 would be 360 divided by 5 is our period. So what that is, 6, 7, 72. So before we even get to 90, at 72, it's already going to start repeating itself at 72, or 2 pi fifths. So our period length is 2 pi fifths, or our period length is 72 degrees. Okay, so again, how you find this is you take whatever its cosine of whatever you're taking. Okay, normally it's just x, but sometimes it's multiplied by a number or multiplied by a fraction. Okay, we set that equal to 2 pi, and that, because that's normally what cosine is, but now we have a b in front, so we need to divide that by b. So it's 2 pi divided by b, or 360, because that's what normally, if I'm talking about degrees, it takes to make a period length, right? And we divide that by our b. Okay, so either two of those in degrees or in radians, you can find the period length. Now amplitude. Amplitude is really easy. It's just what's being multiplied, because whatever number I get here, right, I get an answer of 1 or 0 or negative 1 back to 0, right? 1, 0, -1, back to 0, and then back up to 1. I multiply that by 3. This is 3 times cosine, so I multiply 1 by 3 and it changes to 3. I multiply 0 by 3, it's still 0, and I multiply -1 by 3 and I get -3. So that just stretched these out. So normally it goes at -1, so now I'm actually up at, say, 3 and down at -3, right? So my graph would look something like this. It's stretched out like that. Okay, so amplitude is just right in front. That's represented by the A. That is amplitude. Amplitude. So A is equal to amplitude. So our amplitude for this problem, A equals 3. It's just what's being multiplied out in front. Okay, what's being multiplied out in front is your amplitude. Okay, so that's it to find your amplitude and your period. Period is 2 pi divided by b, or 360 divided by b. Amplitude is what's being multiplied by the trig function.